ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Dolphins, Bengals. Bengals get the win 27-15 over the Miami Dolphins. And then there was one undefeated team left in the National Football League. The Philadelphia Eagles are the lone team in the league to sport a 0 in the right-hand column as the Dolphins fall for the first time this season, lose their quarterback in the process. All indications point to him being A-OK, which is a relief because it looked scary when it first occurred. For those of you unaware of what I'm referring to, Tua Tagovailoa went down tonight. There was a lot of controversy surrounding his re-entering of the football game in week 3 versus the Buffalo Bills. Clearly looked concussed. Again, I don't like to make assumptions, but he looked drunk. When he got up, he stumbled. His teammates rushed over to his aid. He tried to then stand up without the aid of his teammates, and he could not do so. He looked out of it. They examined him for a concussion. There was no way anybody watching that game at the time thought he was going to re-enter the ball game. He did after halftime and led the Dolphins to a victory. And there was much to discuss about that. Look, that situation was always a little, funny, right? Like we all assume that you're never going to get a straight answer here. There was probably somewhere along the line he was able to finagle his way back onto the field. Again, all they're doing during these concussion, protocol tests are giving you a series of questions that checks to see if you meet the baseline requirement. They have a score for you when you're cognitive, when you're cognizant of what's going on. Nothing's, you haven't been altered. There's a score that you have. And now they're going to ask you questions to see if you meet that score. And if you're able to meet that score and they feel like, there's no trauma and you're fine, you go back, you can have an opportunity to go back in the game. So, and again, there's symptoms, sensitivity to light, nausea, all those things. If there are any of those symptoms, you're not going back in the game, obviously. So whatever the case may be, again, an independent neurologist had to clear him to get back into the game. Whatever the case may be, that was a convoluted situation, but it would have been swept under the rug had Tua played 4 quarters tonight and the Dolphins just lost the game. No one would be still talking about it. They would have done their investigation. The results would have been blah, 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 and we would have kept it pushing. Like no one would have been checking for it 2 weeks down the road. Okay, cool. Now the situation happens tonight. He gets slammed down to the turf and is motionless. And then his hands are stuck. And we all know what it looks like. If you've watched football long enough, if you watched any kind of physical sport, whether it be boxing, MMA, football, you've all seen the all too familiar look of a guy that is knocked out unconscious. All right. We've all seen the locking of the arms as a guy is down on the ground or he's falling to the ground. And a telltale sign for me was when Tua went down, he just let the ball go. And honestly, I think it was a fumble, to be honest with you. He was out. And it might have been upon contact. Obviously, he wasn't out at the hit. He was out when his head hit the turf. And so the ball, he let the ball go. And once I saw that, I said, uh-oh. And then I hadn't seen the shot until they played it back of his hands, his fingers stuck in that locked position. And we all know what that meant at that point. And I know there were some people out there saying, why are you showing it over and over again? My whole thing was the hit itself wasn't a big deal. And he got flung around like a rag doll. One of Tua's issues in college was that he couldn't stay healthy. He's a smaller guy. My problem was they kept showing his hands. Like, okay, we get it. He's knocked out. We don't need you to keep showing his hands being in that stuck position. But once he left the game, I didn't think they were going to win anyway. I had already, told you that I thought the Bengals were going to win this game. I told you the environment was going to be charged. They were going to be juiced. That was a sellout crowd. That was the largest crowd in Bengals history, which is fascinating to me that the Bengals have been around as long as they have. And it took until a Thursday night with all white uniforms, by the way, with white helmets. That is the best alternate uniform we will see all season long, and it may be the best alternate uniform we've ever seen. You can't get any cleaner than all white from head to toe. Man, that's going to be tough to beat right there. We're going to see a lot of alternates this year. Most of them are going to be black. Okay, that's one of the few all white ones that we'll see tonight. But again, we've seen all white uniforms. The Buccaneers have an all white. Obviously, most teams in the league have an all white ensemble. The Saints have a nice all white uniform when they decide to wear it, but no one's helmet is also white to match the all white, get up. So that is as clean as it gets. And, they had a whiteout tonight and the fans obliged. They showed up in white. Well, by all accounts, it was loud in the stadium. The Dolphins had to burn a couple of first half timeouts. So I knew that environment would affect the Dolphins. It's a quick turnaround for a team that was playing in 120-degree heat on Sunday. I just didn't like the situation nor the matchup, even though I told you, and I still feel the same way that I did going into the game, that the Bengals aren't quite right yet. There's still – the defense is good. And really the defense hasn't given it up all season long. Even in the – they turned it over 5 times, and they only gave up 23 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dallas's offense isn't the picture of health, but still, they only gave up 20 points to the Cowboys. They only gave up 9 last week to the Jets, something to that effect, 12, something like that. And then tonight they give up 15. So this defense has been playing extremely well. The offense is what I think still has a lot of work to do. Obviously, having 4 out of 5 offensive linemen being brand new, they're still trying to put the pieces of that together and get that mesh together with those 5 guys up front blocking for Burrow. It hasn't been pretty to start. Clearly, those guys have not gotten the handle on the run game yet, because that's one of the things that I think has been amiss to start this season is Joe Mixon has not been able to find any space, any room to operate this year to this point. That was the case tonight. Their short yardage was a joke. They had ample opportunities to make this thing a blowout, because of the situation being what it was. And credit the Dolphins for being tough in the trenches, but also they couldn't create any space for Joe Mixon tonight and haven't been able to do that all season long. And the inability to run the football is really stunting the growth of this offense, takes away play action fake, and it really puts a lot of the onus on the passing game and Joe Burrow. And again, it's like a cycle because this is an offensive line that has had trouble protecting. So now you're putting Joe Burrow in this passing attack in 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9 because you throw it on first down, or you run it on first down, you get nothing. You run it on second down, you get nothing, or you throw it on first down, it's incomplete. You run it on second down, it's a gain of 1 or 2, and now it's 3rd and 8. And that's tough. That's tough sledding. So they were able to overcome that tonight, however. T. Higgins was massive tonight. Big touchdown. Really, the offenses on both sides were stagnant for a period there. It's 7-6. And that T. Higgins touchdown, I thought, was huge because I was really, first of all, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not a huge fan of Zac Taylor. And I've said this, and you've heard this many a times. Winning is the best deodorant. And so Zac Taylor was this close to being run out of Cincinnati after winning 6 games combined in his first 2 seasons, and then he makes it to the Super Bowl. And again, I don't think the world of Zac Taylor, but I thought he made a mistake tonight when he didn't attempt the field goal. Like, all I ask of head coaches is 2 things when you go into a football game, all right? And then when you get into the game and you've had about a quarter to see how this thing is going to go, see how the officials are officiating the game, you see how the game is going and the rhythm and the flow of the game. And I just ask 2 things of head coaches. Know thyself, know thy opponent. Okay. That's all I ask of head coaches. Okay. Know thyself, know thy opponent. Okay. And so it's 4th and 1. You can't run. That's not your strength right now. You can't run. Know thyself. You had a 4th and short earlier in the game. What did you do? You threw it. You know why you threw it? Because you can't run. And then you did run one earlier. You barely got it, right? But you had the audacity to pitch it, of all things. You can't run. So you think pitching it is a smart idea? And know thy opponent, okay? This Dolphins team, they're not going to give up a boatload of points in this particular game. You're not scoring a bunch of points. That's not how you've operated this season. And they're not going to give up a whole bunch of points. This is going to be a relatively low-scoring affair. Take the field goal. It's 7-3. Make it 10-3 and put yourself in a position to go up by a touchdown. Take the points. I thought he was a little bit over-aggressive there because, again, if this is a team that, like Buffalo, for instance, where, hey, look, we might have to score 37 to win tonight. Okay, I get it. Go for the 4th down conversion, try to get the touchdown. But this is a game that you're going to be able to win, 23-20, 23-16, 24-20. This is the kind of game you're going to be playing in tonight. You need points. He didn't go for it there, and it backfired early, and I thought this may come back to haunt him later in the game. Luckily enough for him, it didn't. And I don't know if Tua's injury, put them in a compromising spot, because Bridgewater came in and played well, and he made some plays with his legs that Tua probably wouldn't have made, but there could have been some throws that Tua would have made and Bridgewater didn't. At the end of the day, I don't think Miami was going to win this game regardless, but it's hard to say. But when the plays had to be made, the defense stepped up and made a huge play, right? And then the offense, and 2 interceptions tonight for Von Bell, including that big one. And this is what you always have to know about backup quarterbacks. They're always going to show you at some point while they're a backup quarterback. Always. It never fails. Backups are going to back up, okay? They're going to do that thing where they show you, and it looked like a miscommunication. Teddy thought he was going to take it more up the field, and Gesicki goes over the field a bit, and it's just a miscommunication. But he tried to anticipate on a seam ball. There's no anticipation on a seam ball. Your guy has to turn and look before you let that thing go. Gesicki's head never came around. So even if Gesicki does take it up the field, he turns around, that ball's coming at him 110 miles an hour. That thing's going to skip off his hands anyway. It still may get picked off. Like on a seam ball, because it's over the middle, you've got to make sure that it's not an outbreaking route where you can throw it with timing and rhythm, and that guy doesn't even have to come out of his break yet, and you've already got the football on him, because even if he comes out of that break and he's not ready and it skips off his hands, it's going out of bounds, okay? That's not happening over the middle of the football field. You got to be sure over the middle of the football field. So that was a poor decision by Teddy Bridgewater. I shouldn't say that. It was a good decision. He was open. It was a poor throw. All right. And it was too quick. That said, Cincinnati made all the plays they had to make. And I sit here and I criticize Zac Taylor. What a ballsy decision to send your kicker out. Now, we already know about Shooter McPherson. We know what he's about. We know what kind of a kicker this dude is. So we know he's fully capable. However, that's a big spot, man. That's a ballsy decision. I like it, Zach, because you missed that kick. Keep in mind, when he attempted that field goal, the score in the game at the time is 17-15, okay? He misses that kick. The Dolphins take over at essentially midfield. All they need are a couple of first downs, and they're in field goal range for their own field goal to take the lead from Jason Sanders. So that's a ballsy decision. It could backfire. But as fate would have it, Shooter McPherson comes in, bangs it from 57. It would have been good from, I think it said 64, Man, that guy's amazing. What a weapon that is. And there are a lot of guys like him in the league now. Like those used to be few and far between. Probably like 11 or 12 kickers in the league are good from like 57, 58, 59 now. Like that's a thing. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the leg. And it was windy tonight. It wasn't one of those, indoor facilities or a night where it's pretty still outside. It was windy. And he banged it home from 57. That was a big play in the game because it forced the Dolphins to need a touchdown. But they were on the move late. And again, the Bengals stiffened when they had to. They gave him a couple of big runs, to Mostert. But when they had to get a stop, they got the pick. And then Burrow finally finds Jamar Chase, who had been pretty much quiet all night long. I think what really started to wake that offense up was when they had that third down and long double pass, with Tyler Boyd throwing it to Chase. That kind of woke that offense up. It felt like they were sleepwalking for a while there at 14-12, or I think it might have been 15-14 already at that point of the game. But that got Chase involved, and that got Tyler Boyd, who was quiet all night long, involved. And then he gets the deep over route. They have to settle for the field goal there. They could not run the football. I don't understand why he kept forcing the issue, did Zac Taylor. At some point, put it in the hands of your quarterback. I would have liked to seen some play action on that particular possession down inside the 3-yard line or 2, and they just couldn't get it in against this Dolphins defense. He did the right thing there. Take the points. You see what kind of a game it's going to be. Take the points, and they ultimately win this football game 27-15. Burrow is starting to get more and more comfortable. All right. I thought he started this season off very, very, slow. And obviously the first week of the season, he accounted for 5 turnovers, the 4 picks, the 1 fumble. Last week, week 2 against the Cowboys, he was molested in that football game. Same thing happened in week 1. He was molested by the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And so finally got into a rhythm last week. I didn't think it was clean by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a much better performance against the Jets. That was a get-right game. That's one of those doctor's orders. Okay, you're 0-2. I'm going to write you a prescription. Go see the Jets. Okay, all right, get your shit together. Come back and see me in a week. We'll talk. And they went to see the Jets, got their act together, and now they're back. Okay, they still got some things they have to iron out. That run game is a problem right now. But all in all, Bengals are back to 500, and I think they'll be fine moving forward. For the Dolphins, look, you should feel fortunate after 4 weeks of football that you sit here at 3-1, because you could easily be 1-3 right now. Okay, easily 1-3, but you're 3-1, and so this sucks because you would like to have seen what would have happened had Tua stayed healthy tonight. But at the end of the day, you take the L, you lick your wounds. You got a pseudo bye week here. And you hope that Tua is ready to go by the time you have to play in week 5. We'll see. That's the comfort in knowing, though, that, and this is what Mike McDaniel said this at halftime. That's why you go out and get a Teddy Bridgewater. Hey, there's a comfort in knowing, hey, this guy's going to come in. He's going to run the offense. Look, he's not going to change the game in any stretch of the imagination. But, he's going to come in, run the offense, and he's going to give us a chance. We saw it in New Orleans when he was backing up Drew Brees, when Drew Brees broke his thumb. We've seen it throughout his career, his ability to come in and stabilize things. And so they're going to be in good hands, similar to Jacoby Brissett in Cleveland. You can win football games with a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. But they weren't going to win tonight. I didn't see that happening. Whether Tua stayed healthy or not, they weren't going to win tonight. I saw a Bengals team that was going to be determined. That crowd was going to be a factor. And I just didn't see them going in there and winning this football game. And they didn't get it done. But it's good to see Mostert start to get off. I told you, one of the things that bothered me over the years with the Dolphins is their lack of running backs. They just, for whatever reason, decided that they were, going to just put Band-Aids on the running back position and get a bunch of undrafted UW running backs and be fine with that. And I'm like, you guys got to do something at the running back position. This isn't good enough. And finally, this offseason, they went and got Chase Edmonds. He dropped the touchdown at the beginning of the game. That hurts. In a game where it's not going to be a ton of points scored, you can't leave points out there on the field, and he did It shouldn't have been 7-3. It should have been 7-7. And in a game where at one point, you were up and you missed an extra point, like these are the things. You had a field goal blocked. Like if you're Miami, you're saying we had our chances. We can't blame anybody but ourselves. You left 4 points on the field with a drop touchdown on the first possession. You missed an extra point, so that's 5 points. You had a field goal block. I don't know if he was going to make the shit anyway because I didn't like the way his first kick looked. Jason Sanders from 48. I didn't like the way that kick looked. So I didn't think he was going to make it from what I think that next kick was 51, 54, something like that. I didn't like the way the first kick looked. So I thought he was going to miss anyway. And it got blocked. So that's 8 points right there. And in a game that you lose by 12 and you were up by 1, you add those points in there and it's a totally different ball game. Even if the field goal wasn't good and you add 5 points onto your score, you're at 20 instead of 15. And so when the Bengals kick that field goal, it's a tie ball game. But again, everything changes. The whole vibe and the way that the game goes changes if those points were put on the scoreboard. But again, you get the drift, right? Opportunities missed in this game by the Dolphins. You got nothing to be ashamed of if you're a Dolphins fan. This is a good football team. This is a really good football team, and they're going to be around. They got to get Tua healthy, and they got to keep him healthy, though. And that's going to be huge for them because Tua is playing at an exceptionally high level right now and managing the game, making all the throws. They need to keep him healthy. But this defense is good. They can run the football a little bit. They got weapons all over the field. Sherfield showed up tonight, gave you a little something. But we know it's about Waddle and Hill, and then everybody else compliments. And you know how I feel about Mike Gesicki. So, and honestly didn't think he got involved enough tonight. That's a guy that has to get – how many targets did he have tonight? 4. He's a guy that has to have a bare minimum of 7 targets a game for me. And he should never walk away with less than 4 catches in a ball game because he's just too impactful of a tight end. But at the end of the day, Bengals get the win, even up their mark at 2-2, 27-15. Dolphins meet their first defeat of the season. They're now 3-1. So let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Oni Sin, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you, Oni Sin. Mob, you know what to do. Show Oni some love and welcome Oni with open arms to the MOBB. So glad to have you. Looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future. Welcome to the squad, Oni Sin. So we move right along to the super chat. And if you're out there and you want your comment to be read, use the super chat function to jump to the front of the line. Also, you can just use the hashtag LouieTLive. And once we are done with the supers, we'll go back and we'll knock out as many hashtags as we can. But if you want to have your comment read, you want to ensure that your comment gets read, super chats are the best way to do so. My guy, John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JL Smooth, writes, Lou, I work in the healthcare field, and I work with several neurologists. If their hands curl after hitting their head, signs of TBI, glad he's okay. Yeah. Anytime you see a guy's arms lock up, hands lock up, you know that is a sign of brain trauma. Instantly. Again, I've watched sports my entire life. I'm a huge boxing fan. And so I know what that looks like. I know what that represents. We've seen it numerous times. Again, if you've watched football for any amount of time, you've seen guys take shots, and before they even hit the ground, they're already cold out on their feet. The hands lock up, and they just go down like a ton of bricks. And so when I didn't see that initially live, that his fingers, were in a locked position. It wasn't until they showed the replay and they showed his hands, and I said, uh-oh. Because initially I was hoping, well, maybe, they said it was his neck and it was his back. So I was like, maybe it's his back. He got slammed down pretty good. Maybe he got the wind knocked out of him, something along those lines. That's what I was hoping for. Once I saw the fingers locked up, I said, okay, yeah, he's knocked out, Cole. And then when I saw the replay and I saw the ball just laying there, I said, okay, yeah, he's knocked out, man. So I'm just so glad that he's all right, and the report at the very end of the game was that we already got the report, that was the relief that we were looking for, which was he's conscious, he's alert, and he's got movement in all extremities. So once we heard that, okay, we're good now. And then you get the final piece of news that cinches it for you, that we're out of the woods and we're in the clear, which is he's going to be discharged, and there's a chance, and they think he's going to actually travel home with the team. So all is well that ends well with that situation, but it was definitely scary in the moment. That is for sure. Thank you for the super chat, J.L. Smooth. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, the football gods demand you give Jalen props over dumb Dak, so give it. I'm not giving Jalen Hurts anything other than what I've already given him. He's playing exceptionally well. He's playing some awesome football. If you want me to say he's better than Dak Prescott, how dare you? Okay, I would never say such a thing. That's blasphemy. He's playing well right now. Dak's been in the league since 2016. Jalen Hurts has been in the league since 2020. Okay, this is a small sample size. He's only been playing well, really, for these first 3 games of the season. Let's see how he does all year long before you start crowning him the best thing since sliced bread. Relax, calm down, okay? We'll see what happens. He's going to play against a very confident group in Jacksonville this week. I'm anxious to see. And they can run. I think they'll be able to keep him contained in the pocket, and I want to see what he does in this game. He's playing really well, and let's see if he can keep it up. And Dak's hurt, but I don't know what you're looking for from me, all right? Don't know what you're looking for. Dorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dorian writes, I wonder, will the sports media give Tua the Dak treatment tomorrow? In what way? I don't watch a lot of these shows. I couldn't tell you what the Dak treatment is. So you have to elaborate on that, Dorian. I can tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. There will be a referendum on what happened last week against Buffalo. Like I told you, had he played 4 quarters tonight, no one's talking about last week. That's dead. We're moving on. There could be an investigation. Guess what? By the time that investigation comes to a close, we'll be in week 7 or 8. And nobody will actually care about the results, right? But because of what transpired tonight, we're going back to last week now. We got to talk about what the hell happened and how he got back in the game. And the two could be, mutually exclusive. He could have not had a situation last week, and what happened tonight could have still happened. But you know what is going to magnify it now? What happened last week? Short turnaround, quick game on a Thursday after having that happen on a Sunday. And don't think for one second people aren't going to connect the two, even if they are exclusive from one another. Okay? That's just the nature of the business. So what I can assure you is going to happen tomorrow is that they're going to be talking about his injury and whether or not the NFL got this right. And they're going to have to figure out what happened, and they can't allow this to happen again. There will be an overreaction tomorrow. That's what's going to transpire. I can assure you of that. I'm just happy he's okay at the end of the day. All right. Got a hashtag here from my guy Derek B, who writes, McDaniel getting cute with 3 minutes left. Run the damn ball, kill the clock, end the game with the touchdown, or make them use timeouts. What are you referring to? McDaniel getting cute with 3 minutes. Oh. You're talking about, well, they had to score a touchdown, Derek, but you got like all they needed was a field goal to win the game. It's 20-15. They needed a touchdown. You have to remain aggressive there. You say run the ball. They were having success on that drive. I will grant you that, but they weren't running that football into the end zone. They weren't. And it's not like Mike Gesicki wasn't open. He was wide open. It's just it was a miscalculation on the part of Teddy Bridgewater Teddy two-step was a little bit early on that thing, and Gesicki, and there was a miscommunication, and this is what happens when you get a backup quarterback in there. Maybe Tua would have known that Gesicki was going to run that thing a little bit more over the middle of the field and not up the field. And so, and Tua's a left-handed quarterback, so maybe it's easier throw if Gesicki bends it across the field a bit more. And now that Teddy's in the game, he's a right-handed quarterback. He wants you to keep that thing straight up the field. It's an easier throw for him that way. And so these are little nuances. And again, I could be just making things up, or these could be realistic reasons as to why that particular pass was errant. Bottom line is, you have to remain aggressive in that spot. They were down 5. They needed 6. They didn't need a field goal. So I disagree with that take. Let's see. Hank Midas writes, I like Mike Daniel's scheme, but it's too Hill-centric. I mean, if you got him, you got to use him. It's the same thing the Raiders are struggling with right now. Derek Carr, first week of the season, it was like 17 targets for Davante Adams. And so he wanted to make sure that the other players felt like they were involved. So now you go to the other end of the spectrum, and Davante Adams isn't getting a ton of targets now. Let me see how many targets Davante Adams had in the game against the Titans. It didn't feel like he got nearly enough targets. I'm not saying that it's not okay for Mac Hollins to lead your team in receiving, but it's not okay for Mac Hollins to lead your team in receiving when Davante Adams is on your team. Mac Hollins had more targets in the game than Davante Adams. And again, they could have been doing a lot of creative things to take him away. And so Hollins was the benefactor and beneficiary of that. But Mac Hollins had 8 catches for 158 yards, and Davante Adams had 5 catches for 36 yards. I'd much rather go the Davante Adams 17 targets, 114, 42 yards like he had in week 1, and go that route. Again, they were in the game. They had an opportunity. But Tyreek Hill tonight, 10 catches, 100 and some odd yards. Like, I'm not complaining about him getting, involved. Let's see, Tyreek Hill, 10 catches, 160 yards. I mean, are you really going to complain about that? They got Jalen Wild. They got other weapons. Hill is going to, if he doesn't eat, he's going to allow someone else to eat. So I don't have a problem with the offense. I actually think it's a well-designed offense. I just love how these younger, coordinators utilize so many different ways to attack a defense. Like, for instance, can't remember what game I was watching, and we've seen quarterbacks do this before. And I don't think it was the Ravens. I don't think it was the Bills. But the quarterback ran like a read option, and he pulled the ball like he was going to run it. And so the corner then comes down to attack the quarterback because he thinks he's going to run it. He throws it out to the receiver, and the receiver ends up getting like 15 yards on the play. And it's just a little wrinkle there, right? That's cute. I love it. Like, that's another way to attack a defense, give them something to think about. Can't be over aggressive on that. If my quarterback pulls it, you got to stay at home, or I'm going to throw it to the wide receiver out here. And they do some things like that in this offense. And so it makes it that much tougher to stop. And especially with that kind of speed with Waddle and Hill. All it takes is a little bit of hesitation, and those guys running full speed, they catch it on a dead sprint. You're done. You're not catching these guys. If you stop, you hesitate, and they're running full speed, and they catch it in stride, it's over. Let's see. Got another super chat here. And it's from Dorian. Yes, thank you, because I wanted you to follow up on what you meant by the Dak treatment. Thank you for the super chat, Dorian. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Dorian, who writes, Dak treatment basically pretending like the former starter job is in some type of jeopardy because the backup quarterback is playing decent. Now, had he won tonight, maybe there could have been, and I don't think it would have been. Tua started this season off red hot, winner of 3 straight, beating the Bills, after coming back in the game and sustaining an injury. I don't think that his job was ever in question. nor jeopardy. The Dak thing is laughable. It's Jerry Jones could have put the reason that shit even exists is because Jerry Jones, dumbass, is always pouring gasoline on a fire that's about to be put out. And he, instead of him saying, look, Cooper Rush, we love him, glad that we've got him here in Dallas, solid backup quarterback. And without Cooper Rush, we're not 2-1 right now, but Dak's our guy, He could have easily have said that, but no, Jerry can't help himself. He's got to be in the middle of some shit, which is why Jimmy Johnson can't stand him, because Jerry always wants to be the center of attention. It's always got to be about Jerry. And so there's nothing there. But the fact that we're even having this conversation right now is the reason why Dak Prescott was telling people after the Giants game, hey, I might be able to play on Sunday against Washington. No, you can't. You got to be able to grip the football. You just got the stitches out of your hand. Relax. But because your owner is saying dumb shit, you got a guy over here trying to, bust his ass to get back on the field faster than he probably needs to because he doesn't want to lose his job. And that's the nature of the NFL. Brady did the same thing when he got suspended for Deflategate. He was chomping at the bit to get back because why? Jimmy Garoppolo was winning football games, and he didn't want to see anybody else taking snaps from him. I mean, you're Tom Brady, dude. No one's taking your job. But that's the nature of the beast in the NFL. And you should have that chip on your shoulder. You want guys to feel like, hey, at any point my job can be taken, so I got to put my best foot forward at all times. But let's be real. Cooper Rush isn't starting over Dak, and Teddy Bridgewater isn't starting over Tua Tagovailoa. So, Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, the visuals of Tua on his back with his arms and fingers locked will make game violence highly discussed between now and Sunday. There will be a little bit of that. I don't think that's going to dominate the conversation. Again, if you were ever on the fence about playing football, it's a violent sport. No one's ever denied that. It's always going to be violent. They can try and take as much of the violence out of it, try to take the helmet out of it as much as they can. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be a violent sport. It's a collision sport. It's like car crashes. They get these miles per hour trackers on these players so they know how fast they're running. Guys are running 20 miles an hour and they're smashing into each other. Like, injuries are inevitable. And so it's always going to be that way. I think the bigger conversation leaving this game is, how do we prevent players from coming back in the game when they have concussions? Because they're going to go back to week 3 against Buffalo, and they're going to say that somehow that concussion led to this concussion being as serious as it was. And again, I don't like them making that assumption because this is independent. The concussion sustained tonight is independent of anything. And again, I can't say that. I shouldn't say that. That's negligent on my part, because these concussions, they get worse and worse. The more of these that you have, the worse and worse it gets, clearly. So I shouldn't say that it's independent. He could have, what I'm trying to say is he could have sustained that exact same concussion without having anything happen in week 3 versus Buffalo. He could have had that same exact concussion sustained and had to be carted off without the concussion that he probably sustained in week 3. But again, they're gonna join the two, and they're gonna make this a bigger issue. These independent neurologists have to do a better job. The NFL has to do a better job of protecting players from themselves. That's going to be the conversation tomorrow. Let's see. That's where we left off with the hashtags. See, I don't think we have any more hashtags. We don't have any more super chats. Okay, so that's going to do it for tonight's show. There are no more super chats. There are no more hashtags. This is a good football game. I knew it was going to be a good football game. I'm actually disappointed in what we're going to have next week in Colts and Broncos. That'll be week 5. and we would have had the Broncos on national television 3 times in the first 5 weeks. Thank God. I remember this quirk when we were doing the schedules. Like they got 5 primetime games, and we knew they were going to get that. But I think 4 out of their 5 are like right off the bat. And so every other week, we got a Broncos game. Week 1, they were on Monday night. Week 3, they were on Sunday night. And now we're going to get them in week 5 on Thursday night. And I just, that offense is just hard to watch. I'll leave it at that. But anyway, I digress. Bengals get the win, 27-15, even up their record at 2-2. Big win for them. That's 2 in a row now for the Bengals after starting 0-2. Joe Burrow told the fan base and everyone to relax. You see why they're back at 500, and we'll see how long they're able to extend this win streak out to. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, Tua goes down tonight. Doesn't seem like he's going to miss a ton of time. This little, pseudo bye will help him. I don't know if he'll be ready to play, in week 5 or not, but it'll give him a better chance. That's for sure. We'll see what happens with him. First loss of the season for the Dolphins. Look, they weren't going to go undefeated. They easily could have lost and should have lost to the Ravens. They easily could have lost and probably should have lost to the Buffalo Bills last week, but you didn't. And so you're 3-1 now, and they're going to have to continue to find ways to get it done. They did not do that tonight, but I like where this team sits, and I like what they have at their disposal. And I like Mike McDaniel as a head coach so far. I like everything I've heard. I like everything that I've seen. And I like the way that this team is going out and performing for him on a weekly basis. So looks like the Dolphins are going to be in this thing, man, for the long haul. Even if Teddy Bridgewater has to come in and play for 2 or 3 weeks at a time because, Tua is a smaller guy, gets banged around. They're going to be in good hands with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Two-Step came in tonight and played well and gave him a chance. But again, backups are going to back up. And when the game was on the line and they needed Teddy to make a throw, again, right read, a little bit behind him and a little bit too soon. And it gets picked off. Anyway, I digress. All right. Got a super chat here from Duncan Wright. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Duncan Wright, who writes, you kidding me? Half Dallas wants Dak out, undefeated, thanks to Jalen. Okay. I don't know where the half of Dallas that you speak of that wants Dak out. I don't know where they reside, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Nobody's looking to Cooper Rush as the savior in Dallas. So I don't buy that for 1 second. Dario Armstrong, the second, writes, Joe Mixon reminds me of a more physical and better vision Antonio Gibson, but not as fast. Joe Mixon's a really good running back. And just 2 years ago, he was like one of the best fantasy football backs. But, they're having trouble opening up holes for him. He's always got some kind of knack type of injury, toe, ankle, hamstring. But he can catch it out of the backfield. He's got more speed than you see usually with him. He's getting a little bit slower as your career goes. He's on the second contract, so not as explosive as he once was, but he's still a damn good back. But they're not creating any holes for him early in this season. But again, offensive line trying to come together. And so, you know how it goes. We'll see if they can kind of get that run game or a semblance of it on track. Joe Rockhead writes, how is Samaje Perine still stealing an NFL check? Hey, Samaje is solid. Remember Jay Gruden told you Samaje Perine's a solid NFL back, and he'll be good in Cincinnati. And he catches the football. He's good in pass protection. There's a lot to like with Samaje. He's not great at anything, but he's solid at a lot of things. So they seem to be happy with him in Cincinnati. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. We will reconvene tomorrow for the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys there. I'll give you my picks. I'm 4-0 now on Thursday nights. Feeling good about that. Got off to a good start. I needed this because this is another tough week, and I got to get out of this funk, man. I am in a funk, but you know what the beauty of it is? For as bad as I've started, I'm still right there. No one's run away and hiding from me. So I got to turn it up this week. We'll see if I can do that or not. All right. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys get out of here. God bless and good night.
Louie T Network.